que vea.
Ahí aviéntale, güero, el hielo.
Well, here we are in the Phoenix Valley. We're on the far east side, looking across the whole city here, metro area, and we're at this neat job site. This is residential, but it's really high end, and they're working on some retaining. So this is a retaining wall that's going to hold back the desert. Let's take a look at what they got going on.
The hardest part of these retaining walls is just the amount of rebar that you have to work around.
Yeah.
Usually on normal masonry, you don't have all the rebar sticking up so high, and you can really get a good, probably a block and a half, sometimes 2 blocks out of a single swipe with the trowel. But here, you don't quite have the availability to do that, so it just takes a little more time. So this wall right here where I'm standing is gonna be about 8 feet high when it's all said and done. And that's where the design comes into play. That's where you have every cell on these guys. But as you look around up top, we're done up there, so the spacing's about 24 to 32 inches. So you just don't have quite as much retaining right there. And this is a super complicated section. This is a little outdoor mechanical area. Then where Mario is at right now, that's the mesa stone. That's gonna be a 16-foot high, so 16 above finished floor with fireplace, all exposed from inside and out. So it's gonna look awesome. And then as we go on the inside, we'll put the clay flue in, we'll get the fire brick inside and precast lintels, so it'll look really nice for the finish. So what happens here, if you stand on this elevation, I'm about 10 feet below finished floor where my feet are. That's why the architect spec'd out, or the structural engineer spec'd out a double wide wall. So we'll have an 8-inch block on this side and an 8-inch block on this side. And that'll come up about 3 feet, and then we'll take 8-inch block on top. Because they're really worrying about that bearing pressure. Because when you think about how much soil weighs at the bottom, it has a lot of kick out potential, a lot of pressure built up. Let's talk about this line for a minute, Nate. So at the end of the wall that we're trying to build, we have line stretchers, which are these aluminum pieces. They have little tabs at the end that help to hold the line in place, but just off of the block. If you look how close he is, what you don't ever want to do is touch the line there, but you want just an equal space. And the line needs to be super tight, because as it has distance, it tends to sag. The guys call them chicken legs because they kind of look like a weird little chicken leg. So that's kind of the term that's used in the industry for a while. And you'll see Luisi snapping the line a little bit. As mud builds up, you want to get that off because that line needs to stay super, super crisp.
I know you can feel it, but is it as tight as you can pull it?
This one, because it's not very long, you don't got to get crazy. But if we had 20 or 30 feet, I mean, it's a guitar, bing, really? Super tight. And on occasion, a trowel will hit it and sever, and then it is a boom, like the line will just and go, 20 feet in either direction. So down here in the corner of this block, if you can see that right there, that is the survey pin. So we want to make sure that corner is right there. And if you look at the center, we are right on that dot vertically. So we know that this corner is good. That outside corner, we did the same thing. So it really helps us to get this true and square. And then we took this all the way down.
Here after the footing was down.
Correct.
And surveyed and marked on the footing.
Yeah, the survey process, usually a 3-stage process. They'll come and do a rough staking for excavation. We'll get it cut wherever it is. This particular footing is about 8 feet wide. It has a keyway in the middle of it, which is another whole section of, so if you look at a profile of a trench, you're 16 to 18 inches. It'll cut and then go down another 14 inches for 2 feet and then come back up almost like a tooth, or they call it a keyway. And they do that when you have taller than 8 foot traditionally retaining walls. So there's a whole lot of reinforcing. So get the rough staking in, and then once it's all dug out and clean, survey will come back and put points on the dirt with nails where the corners of the walls want to be. And that's where we come back to these red rebars that you see. Those you pound 4 inches in and 4 inches over from that point, so that when you get there, you know that your rebar is right in the middle of the cell. So when we have this situation where we have corners that we're trying to build up at the same time, we use a line block, which is a piece of pine that has a notch in the back side of it. Now they're done here, let me show you. Pull that off. This notch allows it to hold on to the back side of the block, and then inside of the line block gives you space to put your string, so as it comes in contact with the block, it's a flush condition, giving you a perfect reveal. Otherwise, like this, then you're putting pressure against the line block in the block, which causes the line to be out from where it needs to be. Well, just cool little things that the masons use to make sure that they're maintaining quality and the line's going through. So Mario will set this block. He'll use a level to get it nice and perfect, and then he'll attach the line block back to Adrian, where he'll be able to get that corner set and go good. No matter what you do on these smaller walls, you have to plumb and level each corner. What truly gets me going about masonry, you look here and you're like, man, you got a lot of manpower, but everybody has a unique job. Today we've got 4 block layers, and I've got a tender and 2 labors. And it really flows well. We have enough mud being mixed, delivered to the mud boards to the guys. We've got blocks coming, and we come back and strike. And everybody's got a unique job to do, and nobody is any more or less important than anybody else on the line. But it's a good harmony and balance of just everybody buying into the idea that, hey, this is my job today. And then a good time to go back and strike, Nate, would be when that mortar is about thumbprint. You could indent it, and it's starting to get a little tacky, a little drier. That way, as you run the runner or the joiner across, it doesn't push or pull the mortar. It just kind of finishes it off.
And so it needs to like harden up a bit.
Just like with concrete, after a while, you hit it with a mag float to kind of settle the aggregates and maybe bring some cream to the top. And then once it's settled, you hit it with steel, and then it doesn't push or pull, it just starts to finish. On a job like this where you have more work than you can handle in a day, the optimal crew would have a mason, a tender, and a labor. And basically what those jobs do, the labor interchangeably is, a lot of people call them hod carriers. It's the person that makes the mortar mix and delivers it to the mud boards for the mason. Then the tender would be the gentleman, for example, Daniel over there, he's taking blocks off and stocking the blocks for the mason, because the last thing you want to do is have your block layer be chasing down material. It just needs to be there at his side so he could stay efficient. But each job, Manny, when there's no, all the mud's there, then everybody will jump in and be tenders for a minute. And then when everything's done, they'll go and they'll strike and they'll broom off and they'll clean behind the masons as we go. So they kind of, those 2 jobs, the tender, the labor, they kind of are interchangeable as they go through. Now, when you talk about big commercial projects, the tender's unique in that he usually is the one driving the forklift. He's the one that manages the logistics of the job site, stocking the blocks, stocking the cubes, and then taking it from the forklift up to the scaffolding and making sure they're stocked there. And then you still have a labor and a hod carrier, a striker, a finish man, a quality control. All those terms can be used interchangeably.
Many thanks to Morgan and all of his guys for letting Nate on site to film and showcase their work. So if you enjoyed this, we have part 2 that's more of the same on a much different job site and sort of emphasizing a different step in the process of building with block. Morgan has an Instagram account that showcases a lot of his work. And if you check out these 2 videos, you're going to see some masonry projects that we've done in the past. Thanks for watching Essential Craftsman, and keep up the good work.
No, que venir de allá, bueno, la mí está